I'll take my POIs good. So you can just go ahead and unmute your mic, and I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, the natural human instinct to look for comfort when in adversity is something we're all familiar with. When you're put in a situation that directly contradicts everything you know and everything you've been taught, the first thing that you're going to do is not to look for superiority, but rather to look for comfort in what you know and what is familiar around you. Within our case today, we're going to be trying to prove a couple of things, right? We're going to be firstly proving what exactly this religious person looks like, and we're going to be giving an embodiment of what exactly they look like through our characterizations. Secondly, we want to kind of prove how this transmigration isn't going to change the beliefs of the person in this particular situation. And then we also want to prove to you how making this decision is going to be their first protocol, how making the decision to submit to a god is something that they're going to choose over them becoming a god themselves, right? So I'm going to be mainly dealing with our characterizations and giving an introduction to all the points that we're going to give. And then my second speaker is then going to go further in depth and give further analysis as to why this person would prefer to remain mortal and to submit to a god, and how this is more likely to happen within this situation. Right? So I'm going to go straight into my characterizations. Firstly, what does this previously religious person look like? When we refer to this person, we're talking about someone who is fully submitted and steadfast in their faith. So this is a person who immersed themselves fully and had full belief in their religion. Now, what do we mean when we say religion in this particular context? So our main characterization of religion is something that is characterized by having a deity with complete power of the entirety of the universe, meaning even its creation, right? And thirdly, our third characterization comes to this painstaking cultivation, right? We believe that painstaking within this context means something with precision, with a lot of care, something that wasn't done carelessly, but we had to look very closely at the body, the mind, and the soul of the person who has been given this chance to become a god. So it's not something that has been given to just anyone, but is to a very particular group of people. And we believe that this particularity mainly means in the way that they conduct themselves. So are they a good person at heart, regardless of their religious beliefs in a past life? So it's simply just good in a general context, but not really to do with any particular religion, right? So because religion or the religions that we knew in the past life have become obsolete, these gods are people who are good, regardless of their religion or regardless of their religious standing in the past life, right? So now, what I'd like to characterize to you is what these religious beliefs of the person in this particular context claim. Like, what do they believe in the past life? So firstly, we have characterized they have an all-powerful deity who has all power over the entirety of the universe. Secondly, they believe that God or their power or whatever they believe in is above mortality and above humans in the general context. Also, they believe that they are embodiments of God among the mortals. So we take this in the example of Jesus Christ, we take this in the example of Muhammad within Islam. These are people who come to represent their God within the religion and among the common people, right? We also believe that within the religions that we're talking about, there's also the idea of false prophecy, or things that come to deter these people from their religions. So there's the idea that sometimes you'll go through tests that are going to deter you from your religion or the things that you have been taught by your religion, right? So what we'd like to prove, because a lot of our case is going to be based on the idea that religious beliefs aren't going to change because they have simply changed their body. We'd like to prove how transmigration will not change these beliefs that the individual holds, right? So firstly, like I've said, in this sort of situation, the first thing that someone is going to look for is comfort. Therefore, we believe that is the first thing that they will look for, and they find comfort because of their religious beliefs. They find comfort within their God, within a higher power who looks over them and takes care of them, right? We also believe soul over mind and mind over body. We believe because religion is so emotional and so intimate, it is something that speaks directly to the soul. We believe that the soul is something that is going to continue to carry these religious beliefs. And regardless of these change of your body, the religious beliefs are not going to change, because above all else and above someone's body and physical environment, their soul is going to be what governs their actions, their beliefs, their thoughts, and their emotions, right? We also believe that transmigration won't change their beliefs or change what they hold true, because we have established that this is someone who is fully submitted and steadfast in their faith and their religion. I'll take your POI in a moment. So one thing that they're likely to believe, there are a couple of things that they are likely to believe. They will either believe that the situation they're in is either a test of their faith, is either a vision, or a miracle that God has given them, or something that is an out-of-body experience, but they're very unlikely to completely lose their faith within the God that they had before. Now, even in the context that they do somewhat lose the faith in the God that they had before, and they don't believe this is some sort of test of faith from the original God, we believe that we still won this clash. But before I go on to that, I'll take your POI.
If transmigration does not change the beliefs that a person has, why then are they likely to subscribe to another religion or beliefs of another person that don't necessarily align with theirs?
That is something that we're going to go to into our positive matter. I'll be dealing with that in a moment, right? So this is where we then ask the question, right? You have been put in this position. What is the procedure? What is the protocol? Obviously, the first, this is going to be the prime decision that one would want to make is to remain in their faith, to keep the same faith that they have. But as the motion has outlined, we're simply looking where someone is either going to subscribe to one of the gods that they've been presented or become a god themselves. So in this case, subscribing to their past faith isn't something that holds true, isn't something that is going to continue to happen. Therefore, why then does subscribing to a god become the next best option, right? So we talk on the idea of similarity, the similarity of these gods to their past god, because they're looking for comfort. They want to look for something that is similar to them. When you're in an environment that you're not used to, you want to look for something that previously brought you comfort. You want to look for something that you are familiar with, right? So we say that this isn't a completely foreign concept of being within these, of firstly having these so-called gods, right? As we talked about embodiments of God, such as Jesus in Christianity or Muhammad in Islam, we have seen it before, that there are sometimes people who are chosen or people who are brought upon the mortals to then be an embodiment of the God that one believes in, right? So among these gods, there's likely to be at least one with qualities similar to those outlined in the person's original religion. Why do we say this? It's because the motion suggests to us that this person has been offered the opportunity to become a god themselves. And as we've said, they go through a painstaking process of the body, soul, and mind to choose that they are worthy of this position. Therefore, this person, as with most religions, is someone who is considered good, someone who is a good person at heart, right? So there's likely going to be among these gods someone who's very, very similar to what their Bible outlines, or what their holy book or whatever commandments they have outlined, right? So why do we say this? Is that we also believe that it is more likely that all the people who are gods are unlikely to have been religious in the past life, but regardless of this, we still believe that they're good people, because in this situation, religion is obsolete, and what is defined as a good person or as a person worthy of this title is not defined by religious beliefs, right? So they have been given the option to be a god, meaning that their values are similar to those people who are gods, right? So they are likely going to look at one of them as an embodiment or as a messenger of God, right? So then what happens to all the other gods and all of the other things that they've been told about the universe was simply a coincidence? Again, this isn't a foreign concept. This is something that exists even within today's world, where there's many theories as to the creation of the universe and how it isn't actually something that can be attributed to an all-powerful God. So this isn't something that's really going to test them, because it's not something that's new. So overall, we say that over here we have a more convincing argument, because they are very much more likely, because of their religious beliefs and because of how powerful the soul is, to remain in submission, which is something that will be continued by my second speaker. And this we are proud to propose the motion.
All right, we thank the speaker for that fine speech. We'll recognize leader of opposition to present the case for up.
Okay, am I audible?
Yes, speaker, you're audible.
Okay, I will begin my speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Panel, side opposition tells you that despite the lies, manipulation, and gaslighting someone puts you through, and immense difficulty purely because of this person's personal ambitions, this is someone you should still believe in. They tell us simply because you might see eye to eye with someone else on certain areas, you should then dedicate your whole life to said person. We do not believe that this actually quantifies this behavior, ladies and gentlemen. And because this is the stance that we have taken aside opposition in this debate, we are proud to oppose. Now, panel, how do we characterize the debate? Firstly, what does a previously religious person even look like? Panel, This is a person who had developed a specific set of beliefs that culminated through the teachings of a specific God. They are not only firm believers of this God's words, but they are devoted to this religion, so much so that they make sacrifices on their behaviors on a day-to-day basis with the promise, because of the promise of a greater reward, most commonly some sort of heaven, Valhalla for the Vikings, right? They are willing to go through painstaking trials in order to get these higher levels of existence. We have seen this behavior with martyrs and the like. They're willing to sacrifice their own lives, so much so that if it results in them making it into this afterlife, they are willing to make the sacrifice. Then we talk about the religion itself, right? What is it that these people have subscribed? These people have subscribed to religion because it is an experience that culminates in a specific set of beliefs for said person, right? These beliefs would have resulted from the teachings of these religions, but it is also the complete devotion of oneself to the gods of this religion, complete faith in the judgment of this person, even if in the context of this debate, these gods' teachings are false, and they have based their principles on a set of lies that they would still have to be completely and utterly devoted to these people, to these gods. Religion is based on a specific teachings and words, such as the creation of people and the predetermined purposes that they give out. These teachings are strong basis of these religious people's beliefs because they feel obliged to serve the being responsible for life. But in this world, we learn that all these things are false. Then you look at the gods themselves. These are simply people who had the resolve to go through painstaking trials in order to gain power themselves and spread their own values and principles to others. They also require other people to have faith in them in order to make miracles. This isn't to say that they would in fact grant these miracles. So when you look at the motion, what the motion is asking in essence, it is asking whether people who have subscribed to an ideology and devoted their lives to someone who isn't in fact as powerful as they thought, with the end goal of going to heaven, which doesn't exist, should still subscribe to a God who isn't all powerful, that they are not going, and they know that they're not going to get the pragmatic benefits of this religion, right? Or if they should, even though they're not going to get these benefits such as heaven, or whether they should opt out and become a god themselves and spread things according to their own bases and thought processes. We advocate for the latter. It is important to note that this is also an actor motion. So the side that wins is the side that should prove that we in fact benefit the actor the most and are in line with the actor's beliefs. So what are these beliefs, right? These beliefs are the principles that the actor has at heart, right? And the principles and goals that the actor would have set for themselves, right? So before I move into the substantive matter, what is our argument? What is our team's case? Number one, we believe that the actor should stop subscribing to gods because it violates his own principles, right? Of which they should have the right to live according to their own set values in this world. And they have these higher beings that they were subscribing to aren't as high beings that they thought. Rather, they are manipulators and liars. Secondly, we argue that they should opt into godhood because the pragmatic benefits far outweigh those of being a god denied. Far outweigh a life of servitude to lies and manipulators as well as grueling tasks. Now, I will elucidate the first point while my second speaker will reinforce and extend our case. Now, onto my substantive matter. Why do we say further subscription violates its own principles? Now, panel, when you look at what a religious person is in the context of how we have characterized it, it is someone who has subscribed to a religion because they feel obliged to a certain creator's benefits, right? Because the certain creator has created them and has given them a predetermined purpose. But when you look into the context of this debate, when this person finds out that all of these things are lies, right? All of these things have not in fact happened. This violates the principles that this person would have in fact previously subscribed to the religion in the first place, because they are no longer obliged to actually do these things and carry out these activities, right? When, for example, Christianity, when the very basis of Christianity is honesty and the like, but when this person finds out that this person has said God has been the most dishonest that they have ever been and have lied to its people throughout his entire existence of this religion, right? We believe that this violates the actor's principles at hand, because the actor would have bought into Christianity believing in a principle of honesty, a principle that is not in fact upheld by the God that you seek to subscribe to, right? Panel, because the case is not in the interest of our actor, we do not believe that they should then subscribe to the religion that is at hand, right? Side proposition will come up and tell you that no, in fact, this isn't true, because they say that while this person is still a good person and they still basically have the same principles. Firstly, we show you that no, this person is not a good person, ladies and gentlemen, because we show you that they've only done these things with the intent of their own selfish ambition. They have told people that worship me if you want to go to heaven, when this heaven does not exist. This person is not a good person, and this person does not offer the benefits that our actor has brought into the religion for, right? This person is also not this God also isn't, a higher being who upholds the principle of the actor, because the actor believes in things, basic things, ladies and gentlemen, such as honesty that you do not find on side propositions out. This is why it is in fact not in the best interest of our actor to actually buy into and subscribe and subscribe into these religions, right? We believe that side proposition is feeding you lies and is telling you things that actually do not benefit our actor, right? Because when you look at the previously religious people, they characterize themselves as people who are obliged and completely devoted to a religion, right? Why should they completely devote themselves to a lie, ladies and gentlemen? The simple answer is that they shouldn't, right? It is in their own best interest to actually opt out of this religion, and it is in their own best interest to live according to their own principles and set of values as they have a right to in this world, ladies and gentlemen, because the other alternative is staying and worshiping someone who doesn't deserve the worship, someone who isn't as all-powerful as you thought they were, someone who doesn't have the same principles as you thought they did, ladies and gentlemen. Panel, because our case is the one that acts in the best interests of the actor, and our case is the one that in fact is on the moral high ground as well as on the pragmatic high ground, we believe that we should oppose this motion and side with the delegation of side opposition, because we are in fact benefiting the actor in every single way, ladies and gentlemen. And with that, we are proud to oppose.
Thank the speaker for that fine speech. We recognize the Deputy Prime Minister to present the case.
Sorry, I'd just like to check that I'm fully audible and hopefully visible for everyone.
Yes, you're audible and then you're visible.
Okay, great. So let me just set up my own timer here. Okay, I will take my POIs verbally, so you can just go ahead and unmute yourself. I will answer. If I continue speaking, that just means your POI hasn't been taken. So with that being said, I will be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel side non-affirmative has come to you with a case full of assertions. They have asserted our whole case, and not only that, but have mischaracterized this whole debate. And secondly, mischaracterized everything that we have said and mischaracterized what exactly a religious person looks like. So just a few points of clarification. Firstly and foremostly, we need to realize that we are in an alternate universe, okay? These gods that are in this alternate universe are not the same gods you believed in when you were in your other universe, okay? So these gods that are in the alternate universe are not the same gods that you were believing in when you believed that, no, I'm going to go to heaven. And so for them to come and say that these gods are probably going to be telling you you're going to go to heaven, this first of all is an assertion with no actual proof. But secondly, we don't even know if this is true. We don't know what these gods are going to be telling you. From the motion, all we're actually told that is that these gods look over these people and these gods create miracles for these people. That's all we are told. That's all we know. But further on into a few rebuttals and a few kind of key clashes and a few misses that side non-affirmative has said. So the side non-affirmative's first speaker has come up here and produced a case, and their whole case is based off of the fact that this person probably believes that they're living a lie. They've probably been told all of this their whole life, and all of a sudden are now being put into an alternate universe and have realized that everything that they have lived was a lie. However, we tell you in our first speaker that as a religious person, because of the kind of strenuous religious things that you have been obligated to do, and they even agreed that religion is something that is so strong, something that you have probably dedicated your whole life to. We tell you that it is highly likely, because you've dedicated your whole life to this, that you probably believe that you're in a test test of your faith, that you're being tested if you believe truly in what you say you believe in. You're probably in an outer body experience. You're probably in a vision. This is something that we prove to you, and hence they leave that unengaged. And so their whole point of saying, no, this person is probably going to think, oh, I've been lied to my whole life, is then left, first of all, unanalyzed, and left as an engagement that is left hanging because it actually makes no sense in the face of what we have said. But furthermore, they say that these people are probably going to want to go through trials to become gods. But as we have shown you before, these people probably still do have the same principles, and they do agree that these people do have these principles. What they fail to understand is that these principles, when these people say they want to keep doing good things so that they get to heaven, it's not so that they can become a god. They do all of these good things because they're under a god, so they can serve under a god, so they can be understood under a god. And so we believe that when they say that, no, these people want to become a god, this is fairly untrue because of the mischaracterization of what a religious person actually believes in. Because a religious person believes more in wanting to serve their god rather than in wanting to become their god. And we see this time and time again, not only in Christianity, but even in Islam, where you see people wanting to serve their god and not wanting to become their god, because wanting to become their god counts as something that is wrong in a lot of the religious context that we have in the universe we live in currently. And so I will be going into my positive matter. I'll take that POI before I go.
So if people believe so deeply in serving their God, right, why would they necessarily subscribe to serving a different God that is not the God that they intentionally believed in?
As my first speaker stated, when you asked this POI before, we think that in this kind of alternate universe, obviously their first choice would be to subscribe to their own God. We understand that. But in this motion, in the context of this motion, we've been given two choices. Whether or not, if you had to choose, you would be subscribing to a God or you would become a God. We see that you're more likely to be subscribing to a God because that is the kind of thing you're more comfortable with. And this is what our whole case is going to be based off of, and this is what our positive matter is based off of, and what I will be talking about and further on elaborating in my speech. So firstly, I'm going to talk about and further on elaborate from what my speaker said, why this person would rather be a mortal and believe in the gods. And then secondly, I'll then be talking about why they wouldn't want to be a god. So why this person would see being a god and see that this is something that they don't want to be. And afterwards, I'll just run a few comparative analysis things and just look at in whose world these people are better catered for, in whose world these religious personnel are better catered for. So why exactly would this person rather be a mortal? As my first speaker said, we see that this kind of principle of believing in a god is something that is very similar to what they believed in before on a physical basis, because these people have in the past life and in the world and the universe we are in now, they have believed that they are symbols of God. And in as much as side non-affirmative and is going to come up here and say, no, these people who have been gods are people who are bad people, they're liars and manipulators, in the word of the first speaker of non-affirmative, they do disagree and they do once again ignore what the motion says of painstaking. Hence, we believe that when we say they're painstaking, these are good people. These are people who people are more likely to buy into. And so we see that they still have the same kind of principle. So they're more likely to buy into something they're comfortable with. As we stated before, these people work to serve their gods rather than working to be their gods. And so we see that this is furthermore something that they're going to be comfortable with because it's something that is more in their comfort zone, something that they've believed in so long, something that their soul is going to be more comfortable on. But on a spiritual basis, we see that they have lived their whole life having faith in something. Their whole life has kind of been based off of living, I have faith in something, then a miracle happens, then my life is good. That's the kind of principle that a lot of religious people do believe in as it is now. So we see that this is something that is still going to be carried on in this alternate universe because they are having faith, they are believing in a God, even though that God is not who they always believed in. They are believing in this God, and so they are getting the miracles they want. And so we see that this is something that they are used to and something that they're more likely to buy into because they are not given a choice of not buying into anything at all. We see that they're more likely to go for the route that is more similar to the life that they are used to, and we prove to you why this is more similar to the life that they are used to. But even furthermore, we talk on how they would not want to be gods. So when you look at being a god, this takes a lot of painstaking cultivation. This painstaking cultivation, as my first speaker stated, this looks like going through a lot of trials, going through a lot of painful trials, a lot of precise trials, so that you are seen as the good person you are. These painstaking cultivations are very precise. They are very kind of handpicked. They're very difficult trials. It's not just something that's surface level. This is something that takes a lot of courage. That's something that takes a lot of effort. But even after these trials, when you are a God, it's going to be something that's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of time. To have people believing in you is a lot of pressure. Performing these miracles, using only these people's faith, is going to be a lot of pressure on you. It's going to be a lot of kind of things that you're going to have to be working towards. And so we see that this is something, especially because you've always believed that you are not supposed to be a God. This is something you're not likely to want to do. You are not likely to want to get into something that is going to cost you so much for something that you don't believe in. You don't believe in it already, so the probability that you're going to want to go through all those trials is very low. So you would rather be in a comfortable place, especially when you have now been tossed into this alternate universe. We see that it's less likely that you're going to want to be a God of this universe, even though it goes against everything that you believe in. You would rather be in a place where you still have that kind of thing that you believe in. But even furthermore, as we've told you, this could come about as a test of faith for these people. So they're less likely to want to be a God because this is not what the faith tells them. This is not what their faith and religion tells them. But they're likely to want to be under their gods, as we have repeatedly said from first to second speech. And so a few comparatives, and on a comparative analysis on whose world these people are better served. On side non-affirmative's world, they say these people are probably going to believe that these are all lies, that everything that they've been told that they're going to go to heaven is all lies. Let's even take them at that case. Let's say they believe their lies. What makes you think that if they believe everything is lies, what makes you think that they're going to want to become the gods and then even lead further their lies? We take their world to their best case where they say, oh no, these gods are going to be lies and manipulators. If these people think these gods are going to be lies and manipulators, why would they want to be the gods? Do you not think they'll still want to just at least have some kind of conscience of knowing that, okay, even if this God is a lie, at least I have some faith? But even we see that even if their world is less likely, but outside of the house, we see that these people are more likely to be happy because they're more likely to have something that they actually believe in and be more comfortable and be actually at peace. And so we see that we better uphold the kind of morals and the principles that help these.
All right, we thank the speaker for that fine speech. We recognize the deputy leader of opposition to give engagement.
Oh my gosh. Am I audible?
Yeah, speaker, you're audible.
Okay, let me just set up a personal timer. Oh well, there's a time delay. Okay. Granted that I'm still audible, I'll be starting my speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Panel, we completely agree with the characterization that we get from side proposition, right? At the point in which they tell us that people are going to believe that this is a test of their faith, at the point in which they tell us that people are deeply religious and stick to their principles, and these people are going to stick to their principles and the beliefs that they had before, right? We agree with this completely. But 3 responses to this. First of all, we tell you that if you do believe that this is a test, right? If you do believe that this is a test of your own belief, we tell you that you're more likely to then stick with the situation where you stick to your beliefs and your beliefs alone. You don't then buy into beliefs of another human being, right? You don't then buy into the beliefs of a different God. If this is truly a test of faith, somebody who's deeply religious will stick to the faith and the ideologies and the beliefs that they had planted before. How best do you do this? We tell you do this best in a world where, or like in a situation whereby you then continue and you serve as your own God. If it means that you don't subscribe, if what is necessary, or if the trade-off is being a God or serving underneath somebody else, or believing and subscribing to somebody else's beliefs and somebody else's tradition, somebody else's principles, right? We tell you somebody who thinks that they're being tested, right, is more likely to then buy into a situation whereby they become a God themselves if there are only 2 options that are being presented. Now, the argument and the response that we get to this is the idea of similarities. Panel, we tell you that within status quo, all religions are basically the same or share a lot of similarities, right? Side proposition wants to give us this idea that somebody is more likely to buy into this next religion because of how similar it is, and because of this, because of they share some principles and some beliefs, right? We tell you that within status quo, we see a situation where Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, and Christianity share very similar principles, but still you don't have Christians buying into Hinduism. You still don't have Christians buying into Islam because of those minor differences, right? We tell you those minor differences are what changes the religion, right? Those minor differences between these 2 belief systems are what changes, are what determines whether or not a person follows them, right? So in order for side pop to then give us this case that yes, people are going to follow their religion and they're going to analyze which God has a belief belief system that is similar to theirs. We refuse to take this characterization because we say those small differences are what changes a belief system, or what changes a religion, right? And we tell you that even if we were to give the situation, or like we were to actually look at it and believe that these gods that these gods have belief systems, we tell you that that is very unlikely, right? Because we tell you these info slide clearly states that these are simply mortals, right? These are mortals that have then gone through a process, and therefore these mortals share their own beliefs. These mortals have their own belief system, their own principles that they base their religion or their godness off of, right? They've got their own traditions that they then expect their followers to follow. They've got their own ways of worshiping, right? So we tell you once again, if I wasn't necessarily a Christian, right? I was raised in a Christian household. I was raised with Christian beliefs. We agree with the characterization that these beliefs are firm within me, right? Therefore, I'm unlikely to subscribe to the beliefs of another person who has Buddhist ideologies, right? Who has a Buddhist way of life, right? So with this, I feel as though side proposition case falls short. Now, what you're going to get from my speech, you're going to get an extension as to why people are more likely to buy out of being subscribing to a different god, right? And then you're also going to get an extension on why people are more likely to buy into becoming a god themselves, right? So why people are more likely to opt out. First speaker has clearly shown to you how at the end of the day, people are less likely to follow what a different person or a different god has to say, right? So why, another reason, right? If religious beliefs are so strong, they would not want to buy into different ones. This has clearly been explained throughout my rebuttals, right? We tell you that at the point in which my religious beliefs are something that I've followed throughout my life, right? As soon as they change, I'm not necessarily going to follow them. As soon as another god has different perspectives, it's very unlikely that I then buy into that religion and I then abandon the religion that I had previously, right? Now that brings me into the idea of why people are likely to opt into becoming a god. So we tell you, in a situation where you're presented with an opportunity, but it only comes in the form of being a god, we tell you that people are more likely to opt into this. Prop wants to accuse us of saying that people are less likely to do this because people have been brought up with the idea that you should never be a god, you should never try to be a god, and the like, right? We tell you that even if people have been brought up with that ideology, if you have two choices, which is either to subscribe to a completely different belief system, right, or become a god and continue to preach your belief system, to continue to preach your principles, right, and to continue to live by your principles that you've been raised by and have been so deeply instilled in you, you're more likely to take the second option, right? Fine. We tell you that the previous another reason why they are likely to opt in, right? You get to change you get to change the life of other people, right? So once you become a god, we've seen that these people have become a god and they now have the ability to grant miracles and the like, right? So we tell you that in a world where you're given the option of then having the ability, granted that you're still a good person or granted that you still have these beliefs, you're more likely to opt into a position whereby you can, one, continue to preach your beliefs, right? Because in the moment, like most Christians, that believe and buy into the idea of getting people to buy into their religion, right? Of getting more followers to follow Christ, right? As somebody who had previously had that ideology or that mindset, when they're put in a different world, they're more likely to want to continue that ideology. They're more likely to want to continue that mindset, right? So they're more likely to want a situation whereby they're put in a position where they can best gather as many followers as possible, right? Where they can best gather as many people to buy into their beliefs and to buy into their belief system. Even if we were to agree with the fact, so this is a world that has been built up in the world that proposition gives us, right? In the world that somebody has become a god, and in a world that this person has the mentality that they're being tested, right? So this is the world that we set up there, right? So we tell you that they're more likely to want more followers of Christianity, right? They're more likely to want a situation or be put in a position where they can preach this. Not only that, right, but they're more likely to want to help people out, right? They could see a situation where other gods or other gods within their world are unlikely to help a specific family, for example, right? But they feel as though that family deserves to be helped. They're more likely to want to put themselves in a position to help said family, which is a position of being a god. We refuse to take the characterization that like people don't want to be a god because that's what they've been brought up with, right? But before I move on to my next point, I'll take a point.
Speaker, please note that in the Muslim religion, people believe in Muhammad. Why has no one tried to become Muhammad? Because he is the perfect example of a person seen as a god.
Okay, we have not tried to be Muhammad because they've never been put in a position to try be Muhammad. If you want to build your world in an alternative universe, use that, right? We're telling you people are now in a position to become somebody that can spread the gospel. Yes, they're going to take the likelihood, they're going to take this chance. The same way somebody would want to become a prophet, for example, right? So we continue to on to my next point, right? The point that is that people are more likely to want to avoid being stifled by a religious system and a belief system that they don't buy into, right? So we tell you that at the point in which you buy into a religion, you're supposed to follow specific rituals, you're supposed to follow specific traditions. Now, people are less likely to buy into a world or a situation whereby they have to perhaps take mass every day, but they don't necessarily believe in the ideology behind it. So somebody, a religious person is less likely to want to then put themselves in a situation where they have to observe traditions, where they have to observe traditions that belong to a religion, that belong to a belief system that they don't believe in. We don't want to agree with the fact that these gods are all good and these gods share the exact same ideologies, because that's simply untrue. These gods are people with their own belief systems, people with their own traditions. With this, I've never been prouder to stand for rights by opposing abortion.
All right, we thank the speaker for that fine speech. We recognize the government whip to summarize the debate for the government bench. Here.
Okay, before I start, I'd just like to confirm that I'm audible.
Yes, speaker, you're audible.
Okay. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, we believe that side opposition loses this debate when they come and they base all their arguments solely on the assumption that human beings are just people who are very logical and will choose the most logical course of action when presented with a choice. Panel, throughout our debate as side proposition, we have shown you exactly how not just any person, but a person who has devoted most of their life to religion and subscribes to whatever a religion has taught them is more likely to act not only on a logical basis, but also to some extent on an emotional basis, right? So a few rebuttals to what we have been told, right? They come here and they tell us that a religious person would choose to have the power because they do not want to believe in the lies and the manipulations that they have been subjected to, right? How do we respond to this? Panel, we tell you that this is an alternative universe, right? This person is moved from whatever God, whatever religion, they are out of their comfort zone. So there are no lies here that they have been told, but this is just something that was unexpected. But even if it was a lie or something that could be viewed as manipulation, which we really don't think it is, we feel like those people are more likely to view it as a test of their faith and do their best to remain a submissive person to a religion, right? But they also tell us that the set principles of religion might include honesty, and that discovering this new information contradicts this whole point of honesty. And this is something that we believe is true, right? But then they fail to tell us why you then choose to be a leader in a universe that contradicts all the honesty that you have been taught about, and you choose to take up this responsibility that is not only put on your lap, but it's something that you have to gain or achieve through a painstaking process, right? They also fail to tell us why it would better serve you to assume a position of leadership in this particular world, right? Because you have the choice to just submit to a God, not go through this painstaking process, and you still basically gain all the benefits you used to have in your previous religion. Benefits of when you have faith, you can be able to get miracles. You have a bigger deity to believe in, right? All those other emotional attachments that you had with your religion are still catered for. But they also tell us the idea of how they are bad gods, and it's something that I don't feel like it's really important in this particular debate, because it says you have to choose whether to be a god or to submit to one god. So we say that when you have an array, a choice to make, right, you can still choose the good god that aligns to what you believe in, right? What are the clashes that have come out in today's debate, right? We have the clash of who better serves this person, right? And then two, what is the likely course of action of a religious person in this particular debate, right? So on the clash of who better serves this particular person, what do we come and tell you? We tell you that generally humans would prioritize their comfort when given the choice over superiority, right? And what do they come and tell us? They tell us that a person discovering that they are being lied to would go and choose power. But we tell you that this is not true, because a person is not only a logical being, but they're also an emotional being. So they look for comfort instead of prioritizing power, because power doesn't really change how they feel in a state where they have been taken from everything that they knew and have been introduced to something that is completely new, and they have to deal with all that emotional, to sort out all those emotions that they're going through. They would not choose to go through a painstaking process to become what? A god, right? Because all the benefits that they had with their religion, they can find by submitting to just one god and evading this whole process of trying to become a god altogether, right? But then we also tell you that the soul governs your belief, and transmigration will not change that. You already believe that you are meant to be a lesser being, to serve a certain god, to serve a certain deity, and you submit to that, right? So at a point in time where you have transmigrated, you still hold these beliefs. You would not want to be seen as obnoxious or try to put yourself denied, or try to put yourself in the shoes of a god whom you have served your whole life, right? So you would rather choose to submit, because this is what you are used to, and you're finding comfort at a time of distress, right? And then on the second clash, right? What is the likely course of action for a religious person? Panel, not a religious person, right? What do we tell you? We tell you that this person is likely not to want to subscribe to a new religion, but because they have been given no alternative, because the other alternative is to be a god themselves, which is something that we've already ruled out, then they would choose a god who best aligns with their beliefs, right? Because we believe that when you have an array of gods, mortals who have decided to elevate themselves, to go through the painstaking process and elevate themselves, there is bound to be that one person who at least ministers something to you, and we believe that this person would choose that particular role, right, and submit to that person. And then we also tell you that the minor difference is that they try to stage to us, right, that they make a huge gap in terms of what people choose to believe. These minor differences are catered in the fact that there is an array of gods, and you only have to choose one to submit to. Hence why a person would choose to submit, because this is what they have known, this is what they believe. And on all these clashes and all these points that we bring to you in today's debate, you see that we are the winning house, because we best serve the interest of a religious person who has been taken out of the universe that they know. So the person is more likely to choose submission over becoming a god, because there is absolutely no incentive that they have on their side of the house that we do not have on our side of the house. Therefore, panel, choose side proposition. Thank you.
All right, we thank the speaker for that fine speech. We recognize the opposition whip to summarize the debate for the opposition.
I'd like to check that I'm audible before I start.
Yes, you're audible.
Apologies, I won't be able to switch on my camera because of network issues. So I hope that's okay. So assuming that I'm still audible, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, in the proposed world, you have lived your whole life under the confines of religious authority that have determined your moral values and choices for the comfort of eternal life and salvation from eternal damnation. After transmigration, you realize this has all been a lie. No single entity created you, but it was simply a coincidence. Secondly, you have no predetermined destiny. Think about the life wasted refraining from fulfilling your desires because they don't align with the moral code expected of you in the religion that you were brought up in or you converted into. Now, why would you opt to strip yourself of complete autonomy and submit to the authority of a God when you can become one yourself and maximize your autonomy and powers? So my speech will be divided into 2 main sections. First of all, I'm going to give you rebuttals integrated under clashes, and secondly, a comparative analysis of the debate as a whole. So firstly, the main big clash within today's debate is the clash of comfort over superiority. So the first speaker of proposition came up here and talked about how people seek comfort through religion. And we as opposition completely acknowledge this, but we need to discuss why this is so. So we've got 2 responses to this. First of all, we need to look at why do people need comfort? First of all, they need comfort because there's the possibility of death and eternal damnation. So they need a religion to be involved in, so that they know, if I believe in this God, if I pray to this God, if I, tithe and offer and I, fast during Ramadan, I am saved. I'm not going to go to hell. I'm not going to be eternal damned. Secondly, they believe their purpose is predetermined by this God who's created them. So they owe it back to this God for creating them. So and essentially also when bad things happen, they have a scapegoat to say, you know what, God does trial me, God does test me. So in this world that has been proposed in the motion today, both these factors don't exist, in the sense that there's no possibility of eternal damnation or death, because we've all learned that this is a lie in today's motion. And secondly, your purpose is not predetermined. So therefore, there is essentially no incentive for you to even seek this comfort, because comfort from what? Comfort from what when you can just live your life? So this point doesn't hold true in today's debate. They also talked about how, this experience could be seen as a test of faith, or a vision to this, extremely religious person. So we think this is not essentially in the spirit of the debate today, because as the info slide says, this person surely knows that, like the previous religions in the other life, weren't true. They weren't what they said to be about the predetermined purpose and, God creating humans and all that stuff. So this person knows this isn't true, but, just to engage them on that point, even if this is true, even if they believe this is a test of faith or vision, like my previous speaker said, they're more likely not to subscribe to another God, in the sense that, the religious principle of loyalty, because a lot of religions rely on loyalty. You can't be a Christian practicing Buddhism at the same time. You choose one, right? In that sense, because even in Christianity, there's one of the commandments of do not worship other gods. And that's also there in all other Abrahamic religions. So we think this isn't even probable for this religious person to consider. And secondly, like my second speaker was talking about, they would rather be in a position to propagate their gospel, their values, and become a messenger of the word if they truly believe this is a test of faith and vision. So thirdly, why would they likely seek superiority over comfort? So first of all, we've shown you how there is no incentive for them to be religious in this world. There is absolutely no incentive. And proposition hasn't shown today why there's even an incentive for them to be religious in the first place. So we told you how the prior incentive was, heaven, living comfortably after death and not being eternally damned. But on the comparative, if you look at it with the opposition side, now they can live their values and gain immortal powers. So in our case, on a principle basis, we take this debate in the fact that we maximize autonomy and we maximize the choices they have in today's debate. And why is this especially important to a previously religious person? This is important because they've lived their complete mortal lives under the moral code of religion. So now they've been they've transmigrated into a second life, and you want them to do the exact same thing now, knowing that it isn't true. That's simply unattainable, and it doesn't make sense. So we wouldn't want them to waste their life, especially after this revelation, but we want them to live a life where they're not held back by the constraints of religion that we as a delegation acknowledge can be very toxic in today's debate. So thirdly, why would they be likely to go through painstaking cultivation in today's debate? So we also need to look at the psychology of religious people. As my first speaker said, they brought up the example. My first speaker brought up the example of martyrs and how these people die for their religion without even complete surety that this God that they're dying for exists. People get tortured for their religion. If you read in the Bible, all the disciples were tortured to death for their religion. So if religious people already have this high tolerance and this belief that suffering is innate to religious nature, then this aspect of painstaking cultivation isn't even a problem for them, because it's something that's already ingrained within their religious motivations, right? So they could even perceive this painstaking cultivation as a test of their faith in the endurance for them to then become a propagator of their religion or their beliefs. So we believe this essentially justifies why previously religious people would be likely to go through this. And as proposition, characterize them, these previously religious people are extremely dedicated people. So you think at a point in time where they're offered the chance for them to become a god with their own set of values, or to forsake their previous values and follow another god and be under that god, we think they're more likely to follow opposition's course of manner, right? So on the other hand, we also have to look at the fact that, even if you say, they would follow these gods for the miracles they provide them because these miracles are comfort, we think on a comparative that doesn't solely exist on proposition side, but also it's actually, it's better on our side in the sense that these miracles are dependent on these religious people's faith. This God isn't omnipotent. They're not all-powerful, all-knowing. This is dependent on the person's faith, dependent on the person themselves. So first of all, this shows how there's not even a sort of dependence to this God, and that's shown how there's still no
there's still no incentive to do this, right? And even on the other hand, these miracles aren't necessarily guaranteed by this God, because this God is governed by their own set of laws, own set of rules and morality that they want to do. So we believe they'd rather be at a point where they can be the ones providing these miracles, because as a religious people, as the third speaker characterized them as, these are extremely, they're more likely to act emotionally and compassionately, because these are the principles and values they've believed in their religion. I'll take your point.
Speaker, you continue to say that these people probably believe that they've been lied to by their religion. And then you go on to say that because these people believe that their religion is so good, they want to continue their religion. Is that not a contradiction on your part?
We say this in the sense that them finding out that these aspects of religion, like pure coincidence and no predetermined purpose, not being true in this state, seems less likely for them to subscribe to another God. But we took you at your best case where you say that it's a test of faith or vision. And we said, even if it's a test of faith or vision, they're more likely to become a God themselves, because we're taking you at your best case, right? Because then in this aspect, they can propagate their religion. But we've shown you how this isn't true, right? But we took you at your best case. So now just to do a comparative analysis, just to, wrap this all up. On propositions world, they, propose that people will follow similar gods. Your miracles are dependent at the hands of these gods, but those are dependent on your faith. And also people know these gods have no real control over their lives, but somehow still have an incentive to follow them, and it's still beneficial to them in some way that they have not made clear within today's debate. And thirdly, people have limited choices in life that they can make because they have to follow the rules and regulations of this set religion. So on our side of the house, we maximize the autonomy of the people through having them not under a single entity, but them being able to achieve this themselves and propagate a future that they want to propagate, right? That they did not receive in their previous life as a religious person, right? And this is why we value it. Secondly, we also shown you how the philanthropic nature of religion prompts them to prefer to do miracles for others if they do become a God, once we've taken proposition at their best case, right? And thirdly, people can create their own values and moral code, and thus propagate this and gain powers for themselves and not have to be dependent on another God. So we've shown you on 3 layers of analysis, and by decimating every layer of the other team's case, that this is what's likely to happen in a situation where you're given the choice to be a God or to not be a God. And with that, I've never been proud to oppose.
All right, we thank the speaker for that fine speech. We recognize the opposition reply speaker to wrap up the debate for the up bench.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, let me just set up my timer. Right. Okay. Granted that I'm still audible, I'll be starting my speech in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Panel, side opposition decided to take side prop at their best, right? In a situation whereby side prop wins on the basis of 1, this being a test, 2, whoever best upholds their belief system, 3, what's best for this stakeholder, and 4, in which situation is the stakeholder more likely to take, right? So engaging on all of these major clashes, I'll show you why we win. So side proposition's case is hinged basically on this being a test and how the person is likely to win this test by picking a religion or picking something to believe in, right? Why we win on this clash. Side prop gives us this idea that somebody's going to pick a religion or pick something that is closest to what they previously believed in, right? Because that's how they win their test, or that's how they pass their test, right? We then tell you that in a situation whereby you are choosing between believing something that is different from you and believing and maintaining and upholding your own belief system, that is how you truly win a test of, faith, right? We tell you that at the point in which religions in status quo or religions within the world differ only by minor details, right? As soon as you lose these minor details, as soon as you try and buy into different minor details, you've lost the religion. Therefore, anyone that is being tested is likely to pass their test on our side of the house, where they remain faithful to every single aspect of their belief without changing anything, right? Second point of clash. So we have the idea of belief systems, right? Side proposition gives us the idea that you subscribe to belief systems that are very similar to yours. You subscribe to belief systems that, you know, best uphold yours or that match yours the best, right? Or whichever God matches your previous God the best, right? And then we say, okay, fine. We, on our side of the house, though, we then win on this clash because you maintain all your belief systems, right? Maintain all of them and you don't change a single thing about them. You don't skew. You don't say, okay, fine, because he has all three aspects of it, but is only missing one, I shall still subscribe to them. On our side of the house, you still have a situation where all five of your core beliefs are maintained. If both sides conceded in this debate that belief systems are so important and build up a person, and these principles are what make up a person, then you best, the side that wins this clash, right, is the side that maintains all of them and doesn't change a single one, or doesn't simply, it doesn't become complacent or doesn't settle for any less, right? We win this because we acknowledge the fact that minor differences make a difference, right? We acknowledge the fact that minor details are what changes a religion, right? So that's what we feel as though on the belief clash, side opposition takes it, right? Fine. Then we finally have the idea of, because this is an actor's motion, we have the idea of what is best for the actor, right? So side prop preaches to us this idea of comfort, right? They preach to us this idea of how you get comfort in having a religious body to lie to fall back on, right? To which we respond by telling you that, okay, fine. Let's say you do have this comfort, but one, granted that you are well aware of the fact that this comfort or this religious body doesn't actually exist, or the idea that things are now coincidental, you no longer actually have that comfort that side prop wants to propagate, right? The side prop that, the comfort that side prop states as their benefit. Not only that, right? But side op then gives you a world in which people are literally comfortable, right? In which a world in which people are not mere mortals that face trials and tribulations on a daily basis. You're a god. Literally, comfort is it's a literal comfort that you have, right? Where you don't have to continuously be tried and tested by superiors in order for you to prove your beliefs, in order for you to prove how strong you are and how firm you are in your belief. Not to mention, it's a belief system that you literally don't fully believe in, or that you don't fully buy into. Now, what we didn't get engaged in this debate, right? So they tell us, we give you the idea of evangelism, right? We give you the idea that people want to, these gods, this person is more likely to want to be a god in order to continue to preach their evangelism, in order to try to get as many people to buy into their belief system. They don't engage on that. We tell you that at the heart of this person, they want to help other people. They want to help people that previously wouldn't have gotten help. They don't engage on that. For these reasons, we feel as though side opposition deserves to win this debate. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Speaker, for that fine speech. We recognize the replies for the proposition to close the debate.
Okay, just like to check that I'm fully audible and visible. Sorry. Yes.
Yes, you're audible and visible.
Okay. With that being said, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, note one big strategic flaw on side opposition's case. Their whole case takes only pieces of our case and only pieces of religion and ignore the rest. On our side of the house, we take everything and we show you why on our side of the house, we still have a better world. Hence the few clashes that we have seen today. So firstly and foremostly, the clash of context and what exactly this alternate universe looks like. We tell you that in this alternate universe, these are people who are now gods, and this is a universe completely different from the one that you were in before. This is something that the motion tells you, something that we tell you. However, on their side of the house, they seem to think that no, when you get into this alternate universe, these gods are still going to be telling you the same thing. Yet they say that when you get into this alternate universe, you now see that it's a lie. And so we see a contradiction here. But furthermore, we see a lack of actual contextual understanding of what this alternate universe is. But furthermore, we see a contextual misunderstanding of what religion is and what religion actually entails and what type of teachings are in religion. This is something that's going to come further on in the more of our clashes. So we also have the clash of what is better for these people. we have a main clash of comfort versus being a god. They say that being a god is going to be something that's actually going to be more comfortable. They say that no, when you're a god, you're not going to go through tests and trials. They say when you're a god, you're going to be able to propagate your faith. They say we didn't engage on this, but on multiple occasions, we have told you that on multiple occasions in religion, you are told you don't want to be a god. Yes, they say you can propagate your faith, but you're not going to want to propagate your faith if your faith is what is telling you do not want to be a god. What your faith tells you is to serve your God and not to be a god. So if you want to spread your faith, why would you do the exact opposite of what your faith is doing? This is something that they once again left unengaged, and so that point still stands. But furthermore, they say that no, these people are going to want to go through suffering, and they also then say that being a god is something that's going to bring comfort, as we see a huge contradiction here. And so the big contradiction of comfort versus the comfort of being a god that they supposedly say, we tell you that being a god is going to make you go through suffering, and this is something that they leave unengaged. Actually, we tell you that this is something that you're going to have to go through great suffering for. You're not just going to become a god. And they say no, that you're actually not going to have to go through the suffering, that you're going to have a good life, you're going to always just be happy. And this is something that we see is actually untrue. We prove to you that it's untrue. We prove to you that we are more likely to get this comfort because you are living under God. You're not actually being tested or trialed on our side of the house. That's something that happened in the other universe, which is why, once again, the lack of contextualization of what this alternate universe actually looks like then comes in. But lastly, we look at the case of principle. So they continue to say that you're most probably being lied to, okay? That you probably find out that you're being lied to, and then you get angry, and then you probably want to propagate your own religion. You don't want to continue to submit under these gods. We tell you that this is first of all untrue because you're in another universe, but on the second base of analysis, we tell you that this is contradictory to their whole case, but they say they've taken us at our best case. But let's even take them at that case where, okay, we say that they say that you're being lied to, and then they say that you have strong religious faith and that you think you're being on a trial. Let's take them in our case where they take us at our best case, and in this case this will be our worst case and their best case. Let's say, okay, their best case is that you've been lied to. When you've been lied to, you wouldn't want to continue to be the god. When you've been lied to, we tell you that when you've been lied to, you want to at least have a comfortable life after you've been lied to. But on the second basis of analysis, we see that on our side of the house, when we talk of our best case, we are saying that we are more likely to have a world where people are more likely to want to serve under the gods. As we are saying time and time again, and they refuse to engage, the Bible tells you, and everything in religion tells you not to be a god, but rather to be put under a god. And we don't see why their side of the house would engage on this. They don't engage on this. But secondly, they do not engage on the point of suffering, of how there's going to be more suffering. And so we see that we are the house, or the side of the house, that better engages with the actual context of the debate, but furthermore is actually better for these people either way, even if they find this as a test or if they think that they've been lied to their whole lives. With that, we have never been prouder to propose a motion.
Okay, so all right. So we thank everyone. We thank the speaker, and then we thank everyone for